you just have to come up with a good idea yourself. And sometimes that's the hardest part of the research, is coming up with that good idea and getting then the funding to do that.
Chats and Gym People, your conversational health and fitness podcast.
So what's up everyone? Welcome back. This week we're keeping it in the family. I've got my first blood relative on the show, Oonagh Crilly, formerly Jiggins. Welcome. So Oonagh is currently in the research world. You graduated as a physio, went on your doctorate, PhD experience, and now you're kind of been working in universities, institutes, and in the research world. So you're also competing in the Hyrox World Championships next, 2 weeks you said?
2 weeks time, yeah.
Yeah, and you do pilates and have a partner who's just dislocated his knee and now is regaining nerve damage. So I think mainly we talk about just the research side of things and just see where we end up. So Oonagh, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Delighted to be here as your first blood relative on your podcast. So,
and thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
First off, I suppose we'll start off with just your journey into the research world.
Yeah, sure.
And what you did in that regard.
So I suppose I went to UCD. I studied physiotherapy. I graduated in 2009.
I always struggle with that question.
Lose track of the years. So 2009 I graduated from UCD. Had great 4 years in UCD. Loved it so much I decided to stay on, and I did my master's through research in UCD. So that research was looking at the use of neuromuscular electrical stimulation as a novel form of exercise, and specifically for people with type 2 diabetes. So that was a really interesting project. Then after that, I worked clinically for about a year. I worked in various private practices, and also during that time then I did my Pilates training. So I trained with the Australian Physiotherapy and Pilates Institute, and I was teaching loads of Pilates classes during that time. And then after that, I went back again to UCD. I loved the place so much. I went back and I did my PhD. So that was 3 years PhD project. And then after that, I went working clinically again for a year, and then back as a postdoc to UCD. There's a recurring theme here. And I was postdocing in UCD for 2 years. Did an industry fellowship as well with Novartis, a pharmaceutical company, as part of my postdoc, and then finally ended up in DKIT, so Dundalk Institute of Technology, and I'm working in a research centre there now. So as a research fellow. So
So on that, that common theme.
Yes.
What do you think always kept drawing you back? What thing stopped you from going clinical, so working publicly and helping people with their physio in relation to more working just on the research side of things? I
don't know, because I suppose when I studied physiotherapy, I actually really enjoyed the clinical stuff and actually was all right at it. I think I was all right. But really enjoyed it. But I don't know, something about the research just always drew me back. And I think I had a really good MSc and PhD, same supervisor. He was really inspiring, really just a really laid back individual, but I just really liked his approach and the way he worked and stuff. And so I think probably it was because of him. A lot of it, he was a really good mentor and supervisor, and he guided me along. And that was probably why. And just really interesting projects as well, the projects that I was working on just really interested me, and that, I suppose.
I also as well have a memory of you were always in the family name as the high achiever when in regards to books. So I imagine that
probably the bit of a nerd in me.
No offence to Colin Angus or Siobhan. Ideal. So then, would you want to start off with the first one? So you're neuromuscular stimulus and type 2 diabetes. Was that right?
Sort of. So neuromuscular electrical stimulation. So basically, how that works is you put electrodes on the skin, and they send electrical signals. So a little machine sends electrical signals into the muscles and causes them to contract. And basically we wanted to send the it was a novel form of electrical stimulation in that usually what's used in therapeutically would be high frequency stimulation, whereas we were using lower frequencies, which were causing greater muscle contractions rather than kind of a more rhythmic muscle contractions. So these were producing like large contractions we're using large electrodes on the quads and on the hamstrings, and they were causing gross muscle contractions. And basically the hypothesis was that this was going to simulate conventional exercise. And I suppose it was more for people who couldn't exercise in conventional ways. So my project was with type 2 diabetics, and a lot of them had, were obese, overweight, had a lot of joint pain, had, neuropathies or like diabetic foot, so they couldn't they couldn't go out for a walk or couldn't exercise conventionally, and if they were, it was causing them a lot of discomfort. So that was kind of the reasoning behind why we wanted to explore it. So yeah, it was an 8-week intervention. So they went home with the neuromuscular electrical stimulation device, and they were asked to train 3 times per week for 45 minutes with the unit. So, they could do it sitting at home watching the TV, but they were still producing an aerobic training effect. So like they were still like getting out of breath, they were sweating as they were engaging with the
so
training.
Literally just by wearing that on your quad hamstring, they were getting those effects.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I can't remember exactly, but I think it probably was like I think it was an 8-week training period, and they had like a 15% increase in VO2 and 10% increase in their muscle strength. So roughly around that. I'd have to go back to my thesis and find out. But
it's not like hanging on the wall, no.
no. But yeah, it did produce like
benefits.
Benefits. For people who couldn't exercise in a conventional way. So definitely there was a place for it.
100%.
Yeah.
And then, can you remember, just out of curiosity, did they abide to it? Did people do the 3 days?
Most did. It's like any form of exercise or any exercise program. There were dropouts. Now the dropouts were not really related to the actual intervention itself. It was more, work commitments or
something
family or something else going on.
Yeah.
But for those that did, they did have good effect or good outcomes from it.
Yeah. And so then I suppose we'll just touch on the actual process of doing that whole project. So first off, who actually decides what you research?
So for that project, that would be my supervisor. So he would have come up with the project. It was advertised as a job, like a scholarship to undertake this research master's. So like I was being paid to do that research and then got my MSc out of it. So yeah, that was his idea, I suppose. But for other projects, like some of my current research, like you just have to come up with a good idea yourself. And sometimes that's the hardest part of the research, is coming up with that good idea and getting then the funding to do that. But for my master's and my PhD, it would have been like, I suppose the PhD was more collaborative. It was with my supervisor. He would have come up with the initial thought, and then together we kind of developed the research proposal.
So I suppose just on that topic then, so for the current one, have you a set amount of research or something you must do, or how does that side of it work?
Basically, in my current role, it's like, it's kind of like throwing as much mud at the water and seeing what will stick. Like there'd be different calls for funding. Usually, like there's a number of national funding bodies that we would, like Science Foundation Ireland, Irish Research Council, the HRB, and then you'd have the European calls as well. So like the Horizon 2020 funding programs, like different European funding programs. Basically you just have to kind of prepare a research proposal and submit them and see what's going to work, what's a good idea. And that's kind of the worst part of research, is that it's quite subjective. You might get a reviewer, like these go to international like panel review, and someone might read it and go, oh, that's the best thing ever, and then you get 2 reviewers back, and one thinks it's the best thing and one thinks it's terrible. So it's just trying to get those two or three that like your idea and think it's worth funding. So
there's a lot of bias in it.
Exactly. It is quite subjective, but And then with regards to your role then, is there like job performance and stuff? How is that tracked? There is in DKIT, in Dundalk Institute of Technology, there is a researcher career framework that we'd like. So you start off kind of like obviously you have your postgraduate research student, so the master's, PhD, and then once you go through that process, then you go into postdoc. So there's 2 levels of postdoc, and then you move on to research fellow. So once you're kind of in that research fellow, you're kind of a career researcher or a career nerd. That's where I am at the minute. So yeah, there is kind of a framework, kind of a progression, and there is annual kind of progress monitoring or with your kind of your supervisor my boss.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Yeah, because it's such a different like job in comparison to other traditional that are like easy metrics to follow and stuff. It is.
Yeah, I suppose the metrics for us is publications. Getting funding in. Funding is the big one, because basically, like, if I don't get funding in, I don't have a job. Not really, but there is the pressure to get and I suppose now for me, I'm supervising a team of researchers now, so like I'd have PhD students, MSc students, postdocs working under me, so it's also bringing them along that process now as well. So
Cool. Okay, I suppose we got a bit forward there. We'll take a step back. So then back to the type 2 diabetes. What's the actual process then to going through that research project? So like, how do you find, 1, the people to partake, 2, actually tracking them, 3, kind of digesting the data, and then 4, like actually creating the research document? Yeah,
that's probably the recruitment of participants is always, I find, is the biggest challenge. And I think since COVID, it's actually a lot harder. And I suppose talking about my current research, where I'm working with a lot with older adults, it is quite hard to get people. Now sometimes it's if you're working, like for example that project with the type 2 diabetics, was working with the diabetes clinic in St. Vincent's University Hospital. So we had that link with them, so they were kind of identifying potentially suitable participants and referring them on to or letting them know about our study. Whereas some other projects where we wouldn't have that link in with a clinic or a pool of participants like that, it can be a little bit challenging, like identifying and recruiting participants. So with all our projects, the first step is, I suppose, preparing that research proposal and your protocol and making sure it's sound and that it's rigorous, and I suppose that what you're proposing to do is valid and everything like that. And then you need to get ethical approval. At the moment in DKIT, we have our own research ethics committee, but if you're working with the clinical site, so maybe like we would work with the local hospital, so you'd have to apply through the HSE as well to get their ethical approval from the HSE. So that can be quite, I suppose, like all these things, it's a process.
It's getting worse and worse as well.
I suppose with experience it does get a bit easier, but there's always, it's a different review panel each time, so you'll always get kind of queries back on your study.
Do you have to do that ever face to face, or is it more you send the proposal?
You just send the proposal. It goes before committee and they review it, and then they generally come back with some queries. So then once you've got your ethical approval in place and you start recruiting your participants, depends on the type of study, but you collect your data. A lot of my research would be quantitative, so using surveys or measurements, measurement of blood pressure, or like I said, VO2 max, or muscle strength.
So they're like ones where there's actual figures and facts.
Numbers, which is what I like and what you like, numbers. But actually, quite a bit of my research I'm doing at the minute is more qualitative, so it's kind of sitting down, doing interviews with people, and our focus group style interviews as well. So that's more kind of...
And trying to make your own interpretation.
I find it a bit airy-fairy by times, but I am slowly getting more, I suppose, more mixed methods of approach to my current research. I do see the value in the qualitative stuff, but I suppose traditionally all my research was quantitative. So I'm trying to bring a bit more qualitative work.
Yeah, and I'd imagine research as a whole is a lot more quantitative, like facts and figures rather than qualitative.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Most people would be quantitative, but I do think there is a lot of value for that qualitative approach.
I'd imagine, 100%.
And I suppose if I can talk a little bit about a project that I just worked on. So it was a cardiac rehab, so cardiac rehabilitation. So this project was, I developed along with my team, a digital platform for cardiac rehabilitation. So cardiac rehabilitation traditionally happens in a hospital or clinical environment, but we wanted to bring it out into people's homes.
Do you want to just dumb that down a bit?
Yeah, okay. Okay. So after you have a heart attack, you're recommended to engage in probably 6 to 8 week exercise program. Also, you have, there's different components. So you'd have nutritional advice. If you're a smoker, you'd be advised to quit smoking, and there'd be kind of, education and advice about that. Whole lifestyle management really, and then there'd be a kind of a structured exercise program. So anyone who's had a cardiac event, so a heart attack or bypass or stents put in, they would be referred to a cardiac rehabilitation exercise or a program. So the exercise component of that, like the benefits of it are massive, but unfortunately very few people take up that referral for cardiac rehabilitation, and those they do, there's massive dropout numbers, and there's a lot of barriers to attending. So for a lot of people, it's on during working hours, or they don't have the transport to get there, or just the time that it takes up. It's kind of 2 or 3 hours out of someone's day. So there are a lot of barriers. So that was the proposal to move it into the home, and I suppose COVID kind of, put an accelerator under that, and that a lot of cardiac rehabilitation programs did move into the home. So what we were doing is we developed our platform. So the platform consisted of a web-based app, and we integrated off-the-shelf consumer digital devices, so a smartwatch and a blood pressure monitor. So they were being used by participants to monitor their heart rate as they're exercising, and also the blood pressure monitor for measuring their blood pressure before and after exercise for safety reasons. And basically then, the clinician, then all that information was fed into the app, and then the clinician could see it on their screen as the person was exercising. So we did an 8-week exercise program. And before and after measurements, we had 2 groups. So one group was exercising in the clinic or in our sports centre, and then the second group were exercising at home, and both had similar outcomes. Neither group showed massive, or what we say, they all improved, but there was no significant improvement. So that's kind of a statistically significant improvement. That's something that you're always looking for in research. So there was no significant improvement, but qualitatively, so this brings me back to why the mixed method approach. So qualitatively, they were all saying this is the best thing ever, I feel great, and so it was good to kind of integrate the quantitative data there with the qualitative data. So where they were saying, I really did improve, but then the numbers weren't really showing that. But to kind of merge them together and show that,
And I'd imagine what was the timeline on that?
Research. It was an 8-week intervention.
So I feel like if you did that spread over 2 years, that's when you'd really see difference. Because the drop off would be huge with regards to people coming in. Whereas if it's absolutely sustainable for them at home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And then so back to you recruit them, you process the data.
Yes.
Then how do you actually go about digesting it all, writing those papers?
Yeah, that's the part I love, That's the part I love, I like writing. I like the writing up. I just find it, some people do struggle with it, but I just find it, for me, it's just like a process. I find it really methodical, and I just,
checklist.
Checklist. I enjoy the writing up, and like the analysis again, I love crunching those numbers. And when you get those statistically significant results, yeah, it's like happy days. Yeah, it's been worthwhile. It doesn't happen too often, but just writing it up, and then I suppose then try to submit for publication. Do
you want to give a high level overview of what the writing up actually? What's kind of the general basis of a research paper?
So a research paper. So you'd have your introduction, an abstract first. Then you'd have your introduction, your methodology, your results, and a discussion conclusion section. So generally, a lot of your methodology be written already from your research proposal or protocol. So I always would start with writing the results first. And then kind of go back. People have different approaches, but this is the way I would do it. So yeah, start with the results and the methodology, and then it's the introduction is easy, and it's the interpretation and in the discussion, I suppose, which can be the hardest part. But and just kind of to find, I suppose, to kind of link your research back to what's already known in the field, and kind of trying to I suppose how your research is different, or how it adds to what's currently known, or so it's kind of like looking at the literature then, and seeing what's out there already.
And then when it gets publicized, what does that mean? So does that mean like anyone literally?
So basically the process is you just have to you identify a journal you want to target, and a lot of these journals, it's big money. So this is you need to consider this when you're applying for research funding, is have you got the money then to publish. You'd be looking at target journals, and there's kind of you can't just pick any journal you want to get. You obviously want to be published in the best one, and I suppose everyone knows Nature. It's kind of like a really famous journal, but it's all about the impact factor. So all journals will be ranked and rated. So you want to target your publications to something that has a high impact factor, but also that's, I suppose, realistic. And it happens all the time that we submit papers and they don't even get to the review process. Like they'll go to an editor and they might just reject it at the first step, or it's sent out to reviewers, and then you get comments back, and you have a chance to kind of
make adjustments.
Yeah, exactly, or to argue your
reasoning or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. So it is a long process. It can take I've papers on 2 or 3 papers currently under review for the last 6 months, and you just don't hear anything. So yeah, you just have to, and then it could get rejected, and then you're back to the start again. But that's just the way it works.
If it gets rejected, that just gets wiped then, does it?
Yeah. Now, usually, if it might not be a good fit, the editor might make the decision that it's not a good fit for their journal, or not fit in. Cause,
Do you want to speak more about those actual journals? So, what kind of they are? What's is there a limit that they can publish within journals each year?
So a lot of them would publish kind of like on a maybe like issues, so every month or something like that. So like each journal would have an editor and an editorial board, and then like editor would send them out it's a voluntary. Like journals would send me papers to review as a reviewer. So it's kind of a two-way thing. So I submit and then you get ones back. So it's kind of a voluntary thing that you do.
What about if your ones got rejected and you're sour?
Yes,
then you're just
I know. It's the time is the biggest thing. It's not paid work you're doing for these.
They take time. Yeah. 100%.
So it comes down to the time a lot of the time. Whether, and then we do I present my research as well at conferences as well, at international conferences. The big one, I suppose, that I'm targeting at the minute is pervasive health. So again, it's just about healthcare everywhere, and not in the traditional hospital setting, and how we can use technology and digital technologies to move healthcare out into the community and into people's homes. That's kind of one that's coming up in September in Greece. So hopefully hopefully I get on the ticket for that.
Yeah. How do you get selected for? Like
Again, it's you submit your paper and it's
papers.
reviewed, and if it's deemed good enough, you get accepted. So yeah.
And then you give a speech at that conference about your paper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant.
But I presented at that conference last year. Yeah, it's kind of a good conference for my area of research. So
Yeah, sick.
It's a nice one. Yeah.
And does general public go to it? Like,
no,
do you
it's
view
more.
it? It's
no,
invite
yeah.
only.
Well, you could if you wanted,
Okay,
but it's kind of it's quite niche area. So yeah. Unless you had an interest in the field, I wouldn't be.
Yeah, rushing out there. Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
And then, so obviously, it's such common. There's always like studies coming out, research is changing, people are changing the protocols based on what's coming out. Within those journals and stuff, how do you kind of know which ones? Is there anything that's published? Is that okay to, in your like mind, to listen to and adapt your training to? Or is there rankings in what's like standards?
Yeah, well, I suppose if you're looking at a piece of research coming out, you want to look at the journal and see, is it peer reviewed? Because some journals wouldn't have that peer review process. So that's where your papers are sent out and someone has gone through them to make sure they're sound.
Yeah.
So I suppose, if it's a published paper, you can't take it as gospel. But if it's from a peer reviewed journal or a reputable source, I suppose then you can think it's pretty good. But I'd always, like, if I was looking at something and going to make a decision on it, I'd always look through that paper, and particularly that methodology section, and see what they've done. Or is it open? Is it transparent? Is it clear? I suppose that's one thing that, like, if I was to set out to do this study from reading their methodology, could I replicate it tomorrow? And that's a kind of a good indicator. And would I know exactly what to do from their methodology? And that kind of will guide you as to whether it's a good or a bad piece.
That's interesting. Yeah,
if it's kind of really
shady,
it might be, the results might be a little bit shady as well. So that's kind of something I'd look at first anyway.
And then if someone had 5 minutes to read a paper, what's the best way to get what you want out of it?
I suppose that methodology section, and then the conclusion. If you want to save on time, or just read the abstract maybe. The abstract is always a kind of a good indicator of where things are going to go as well. So
because I've looked at a few of them and they can always be quite wordy.
Yes.
And it is, you need to sit down and actually look at them.
Yeah, it does take time, and even like my job is like research, but I don't have the time to read all the publications that come out. Like I have a folder on my computer, must read at some stage. It doesn't.
Still haven't got around to it.
No, someday I will,
yeah. Out of curiosity then, what's a day in the life look like? What are you doing kind of day to day within your role?
In my role, so currently I'm between projects, so I have a big project starting in September, so I'm just wrapping up on another project. I've a few students, PhD student, at the minute, kind of, she's early stages, so at the early stages kind of need a little bit more support and kind of guidance, so supervising her and applying for funding as well. Kind of submitted another research proposal there for another PhD student, so we'll be finding out about that in a few weeks' time. So that is kind of, it's good and bad. If you get it, it's like more work. It's like, okay, no, didn't get it, wasn't successful, but it's generally good. So
but is the majority of your day spent like reading, writing?
Admin. Yeah. My majority of the day is admin. Most of it would be writing. Writing up research proposals, editing, like reviewing work that comes back from students and providing feedback. It's generally writing. I don't have much time for reading, unfortunately. Not as much time as I'd like. But then, like, when I start my new project in September, I'll be actually collecting data again.
Out in the field, kind of.
Out in the field, exactly.
And I know you can't give away nitty-gritty details of the new project. It's secret. But do you want to give a brief overview of even the getting funding process or how that was?
So the new project, the overall aim is to design, develop and test a digital program for menopausal women who have additional risk factors for cardiovascular disease. So menopause is kind of like it takes a woman on a roller coaster ride of changes, and it can last easily a decade or more. So from hot flushes, low mood, forgetfulness, insomnia, like the changes can be deeply distressing for some women, but the exercise is hugely beneficial. The magic pill, like we know, for so many things, but for menopausal women can be really, really powerful tool. And I suppose during the menopause, women are more susceptible to developing heart disease, and particularly those who have additional risk factors, so that are overweight and who are sedentary. There are a number of different apps out there already, but we don't know how effective and engaging they are in increasing physical activity and reducing sedentary behaviour. So that's kind of what my project is looking at, how we can develop a kind of individualised, adaptive solution for menopausal women to get them exercising more. And maybe just, it's little things, maybe like they live close by a park, and maybe like providing recommendations through an app to go for a walk at certain times, where, if the weather's good. And it's just kind of pulling in data from different sources and trying to engage them more and get them moving.
Would you have an app developer for that?
Yes, we have in-house software developers.
Okay, I was thinking.
I can't do that. No, I have a good team. We've a good team in our research centre. That does all that, and all the machine learning piece will be someone else, not me.
But you're the brains behind the different methodologies you're trying out and stuff.
We're not the brains. Exactly.
Unreal. And then, so how is getting funding for that? What does that process look like?
So again, it's just writing up your research proposal. It's quite like, these grants, it depends on the funding body that you're applying to, but it's kind of, you write up your research proposal to submit your budget plans, your all different parts of your proposal, like your methodology, but also you kind of what is the current state of the art? Why is your project different? What is it going to add to the literature in the field? Or how is it going to why the public funds should be spent on this research, basically. It is quite, again, once you submit that, it goes to an international panel of experts, and they review it, and then you get your feedback. It's like the journal review process. You get your comments back. You have a chance to dispute them if you want, or justify. You get a chance, and then it goes again for second stage. This particular one was a stage 1, and then I got through to stage 2, and then was successful on stage 2. So
congrats.
It's great. Delighted.
It's mad. There's a recurrent theme in each section by the sounds of it. I've been each time you go through it. But it must be is it a real excitement when you get that approval?
Oh massive. Because I was actually when I got that word, I got this big grant. I was in Belgium working on another project, and I was in this open plan office with loads of people I didn't really know, and I was the email came through, and I was and I was they wouldn't really kind of
react in that way.
And I was messaging my boss and my family obviously at home, and they're all going crazy, and I'm
trying to contain my excitement.
It was great. Exactly. But it was a nice moment on my own.
Unreal.
Surrounded by people, but no one really knew.
Was that one of the biggest ones in your career so far, do you think?
That was a big one. So kind of it's quite prestigious.
Unreal.
Delighted.
Unreal.
That,
And how long do you expect it to go for? It's starting in September.
4 years. 4-year project. So it's kind of it's nice as a career researcher. You're always chasing that next grant, so it kind of gives me that security now for the next 4 years. Takes a bit of pressure off, but I will be all the time during that 4 years keeping an eye out on what's coming up, and what calls that I can apply for. And
it sounds like you never switch off. No, you can always have to be on the lookout.
Exactly.
And how do you find managing or helping the upcoming researchers and stuff? after being in that position
yeah,
yourself?
well, like I said, like my PhD, my MSc supervisor, I tried to take a lot of what I learned from him in, like, you know, his approach. And I think I'm quite laid back. They actually call me the swan in work because I'm like the swan, because I'm like nice coasting, but underneath I'm like I try to kind of, I'm quite laid back. I'm not that, you know, I want this done by X, Y, whenever, but try to just kind of hands-off approach and try to
let them figure it out their way.
Exactly. But I'm always there, like I kind of have an open office approach. They know where I am if they need me. Like,
But you can't spoon feed them either in ways.
No, well, that's the thing about research. It can be lonely, and it can be like, but it is kind of, a lot of projects are independent. You know, you have to work independently and be good at that and be comfortable with that. And now I have worked in big teams and stuff as well, but a lot of your research, you are, you know, on your own. Exactly.
So would that be kind of like, if you think of advice to you or other research when you were younger, or other researchers coming into this game, what would you say like the big things to be aware of? And
that, like, it's not always going to go well, I suppose. That's kind of a big thing. Like, I had some catastrophes during my PhD, but yeah, like, it's just to be patient and, you know, like,
just keep going
and keep the head down, and, you know,
things will work out.
They always do.
So we won't hold you too much longer, because we saw the boys coming there.
That's all right,
So do you want to touch? So we'll talk about your Hyrox World Championships and then Pilates.
Oh yeah.
So we start with Hyrox. So you competed in Hyrox Koln.
Yes. Yeah.
What, you did like an hour 13 in the single events, was it?
Yeah.
And then, so what's the process to actually you get invited to the World Championships then?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that?
The invitation, so I don't know, just Hyrox, I suppose like everyone, I started seeing it coming up on my Instagram probably about 18 months ago, and just knew I wanted to do one. Then one of the local CrossFit gyms started doing Hyrox classes, and I started doing them, and I loved them.
What was the style of training you were doing before?
So I just do traditional strength and conditioning, and then I suppose, because I played Gaelic football,
Well,
and I suppose during COVID, I did athletics as a child, but I was track and field. I hated the cross country. I was never a long distance runner. I hated the long distance stuff. Anything above 400 meters would make me very nervous. So never did long distance running. But during COVID, I suppose, like everyone, what else could you do but run? And it was actually my husband, Derek, he started me on a mass. I actually don't even know what mass running program. I don't know what mass is, but anyway, he thought it was brilliant. And it was really good. Like, I made massive improvements in my running.
Was it just that, like, literally doing as many kilometers as you could?
No, it was like interval training. So, like, I suppose before COVID, I wouldn't really go for runs, but if I was going for runs, I'd be just dragging myself.
Like,
exactly. Whereas this was like a structured program. And like, it was kind of different interval, like longer intervals and shorter intervals. So I suppose it kind of got it a little bit. I wouldn't ever call myself a runner, but I got a little bit better at running during COVID. And I was doing my strength and conditioning in the gym, playing Gaelic, and then I started doing those Hyrox classes, and then the gym that I actually train in started doing the Hyrox classes as well. Then just was trying to do a Hyrox with one of my friends, and it was just hard to get a date that suited both of us, or to travel. And then I just saw tickets available for Hyrox Koln. And I was like, right, I'm going to do it. And then realised there's no direct flights from Dublin to Cologne. So I had to fly, I can't even remember where.
Such a random place to do it, actually, when you think about it.
Place, But I knew I had to get it out of my system. And then qualified. So never expected to. Like, I knew going to Cologne that it was one of the last chance qualifiers for the Worlds. So I suppose there was a lot of big names there trying to get qualified.
Deadly,
it was the last European last chance qualifiers, and then there was one in the States there a few weeks ago as well. So it was a big event to do. I didn't know that was the case. There's each age group, so I'm in the 35 to 39 age category, and so there was a number of slots per age group, and I got the email. Like at first I was like, and then when it sunk in, I was like, oh my god.
That's what, because it's pretty much, just anyone doesn't know, it's like there's set times that you must meet, or standards to actually qualify for the World Championships. And it's all invitation only, so no one can book in and all, and it'll be the best all over the world of who kind of meet those standards that get invited.
On the Hyrox website it said 175,000 people did a Hyrox competition in the 23 to 24 season, which we're in, and only 2% qualify. So I'm
You're
in the top 2%.
That's wild when you think about it. Yeah, sick.
Never thought I'd be in the top 2%, but sure, here I am.
And it's 2 weeks?
2 weeks out,
And where is that on?
Nice.
Yeah. It's only for you.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah. Because I don't know if we travel to the States or somewhere like that. But no, it'd be nice wee vacation.
That'll be serious. And there'll be big names at that.
Big names, because you've the Elite 15.
Oonagh Crilly.
Yeah, and Oonagh Crilly, the Elite 15. It's just even in Koln, watching the athletes.
To be there,
to be there, everyone is just phenomenal. You're just it's looking at everyone. They just look superhuman. The pro races, so that's the unfortunate thing about the Worlds. So I did the Open, but for the World Championships, everyone goes into the pro. So all the weights go up.
You have to do the pro race.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
So be up a gear, but sure. Been working hard on the sleds. Have a sled session this afternoon as well. So I'm not afraid of the sleds. It's the
what's your least favorite exercise?
My worst station was going to Koln. I only did one session on the sleds, and it was actually the sled push was my fastest station, so it was fine. It's the burpees.
Yeah, the burpees zap you as well.
And they're very strict on
your distance and not cheating.
On the distance, you really, your hands can't go
further than
so they were really strict. The wall balls as well are pretty
I always found
tough.
that's a gruesome one.
But I'm actually fine with them, as in I didn't get any no rep on my wall balls, which I'm pretty proud of. But it's the burpees is kind of. You just
Unreal.
have to be slow and patient.
It's exciting.
I can't wait. Yeah.
And did you ramp up to train
No,
or did
I
you just
didn't.
stay doing what you were doing?
Unfortunately, I'm still playing Gaelic. I had to kind of put it on hold. So I've missed a good few league matches. Put it on hold, and I'm just doing my same training. So I'm doing 3 to 4 running sessions a week, 2 strength, and then kind of a Hyroxy type.
100%. And if it got you to where you are, it's if it ain't broke.
The first time,
100%. Why change? Just
exactly.
go. You didn't think you were going to be here. Go out and enjoy it.
Total bonus territory, and just
unreal.
Delighted.
Unreal. And then so you're teaching Pilates.
Yes, another string to my bow. I love teaching the Pilates. I did it trained. I can't remember, nearly 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. And the Pilates I teach, so it's based on the traditional Pilates principles by Joseph Pilates, but it's modified.
Oh my god, I never know that guy's name.
He's
that's a name.
Joseph Pilates. He
Pilates
originally
Joe.
Pilates Joe. He originally he was German, and he came up with the Pilates original exercises, but what I teach is modified Pilates, so it's more it's clinical Pilates, so cool. It's more tailored to the general population. So the original Pilates was more for athletes, whereas this is for everyone. That it's less not that it's less strenuous, but I suppose more for people who maybe but it's still I always say I always try and do as much Pilates as well during the week, and it's kind of one of my hardest workouts because it's so slow And so like it's all about precision and control and alignment and like having good body awareness. So it's kind of one of my hardest workouts of the week.
But that benefits you so much.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, and for injury prevention and stuff, although I'm always injured, but for injury prevention, it does help me, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, and how do you teach it? Is it in person or?
Yeah, in person, yeah. So I just unfortunately, just don't have the time to do as much as I would like. But yeah, just do 2 classes a week on a Saturday morning, and I have the same crew coming for nothing for years, and
Unreal.
no, it's great. It's kind of a different. It's nice to kind of interact and
100%, it's so social
people.
as
Yeah,
well.
Exactly, yeah.
And, you're helping them. Like.
Yeah, and you have the banter with the ladies. It's mostly ladies, so that come to my classes. So yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
And how did you find like first kind of putting yourself out there to start doing the classes and stuff? That process.
Yeah. So I suppose like would have been used to kind of standing up from like physiotherapy, like your undergraduate, kind of that's part of like group exercise delivery.
Okay.
So you kind of have the kind of a bit of backing in that. And then when I did my training, there was a lot of like, you had to kind of build up so many hours of kind of supervised delivery of exercise classes. So like, I can't even remember, was it 200 hours or something of classes that I had to deliver kind of in a semi kind of supervised way. So no, like I like
to you, it wasn't phasing you.
No, and I suppose like even now, like at the start, I would have taken me hours, not like preparing and planning out classes. Whereas now I just kind of have the repertoire.
Yeah, it's all practice.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Like, isn't it? Yeah, just
experience. It's like anything. You get more confident and Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
So I know the 2 lads were knocking at the window. We'll leave you. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for giving us your time.
Thank you very much.
And bringing us up to speed in the research world.
Great.
Yeah. And all the best in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Right. Bye bye.